Hi, Sean Beverly. Today I want to talk a little bit about 2024, a lot more about 2025. Try to forward think. Some things that have happened recently. So NCOR, Bear was just introducing, is now a nonprofit. Got its tax determination in December. 501(c). It's a thing. It's accepted and accepting donations from various generous individuals. Thank you, Christmas. I'm saying in general because people felt like giving over the holidays, and that was quite nice. Surprise. We are currently training several UB undergraduate and graduate interns. Some of them are here. It's kind of easy once you have a 501(c) to set up an internship program, apparently. And so I just did that. So we have interns. Who are working with us. And also because they're interns at a 501(c), we're able to apply to funding through UB that funds unpaid internships at 501(c) organizations. So fingers crossed, guys. Board of Directors, meeting this lovely gentleman here. If you have any questions about this, just getting into this, right? Learning a lot about 501(c)s, what it means to be a nonprofit. But just want to throw that on your radar. It is a thing now, and we are doing things with it. Some things that I have in mind about what to do with it, and I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end, but offering some sorts of services like quality auditing, credentialing, training, and workshops, and alignment consulting. Again, there's a lot of information on the slide. By the time I get to the end of this talk, you will have seen most of this and why I put it here. And this will be the last slide we end on. So I won't belabor that here. Instead, I want to talk about some other things that are going on in our ecosystem. BFO is now not just a baseline standard mandated across DoD and IC alongside Common Core Ontology, but also by the Joint Enterprise Standards Committee. It is a required standard. But this is something you probably don't know much about. I didn't know much about it prior to seeing this, but it was a big deal. Hence the fireworks over on the side and the meeting that came up. BFO was the standard that was placed in the DoD IT Standards Registry. Now, what effect this has is that folks now are able to, in government, go around, take a piece of paper that has this on it and look at projects and say, are you using BFO? When they say no, they slap them with a piece of paper until they do it. CCO is next. It'll be, ideally, fingers crossed, we'll be going through JESIC vetting by June. So is it June, July? It's in the June, July, one of the J's. So that's the deadline. So I have a good feeling about it. The DIOGs, if you're not familiar, is a DoD-IC ontology working groups. They've been going on for quite some time, started by Barry, Victor Rohr, and some other mad individuals. It's essentially the force behind the memorandum that has the BFO and CCO mandated for use across these spaces. And so there are subgroups that operate under the DIOG. This is a relations group I'm the chair of. Basically, what we're doing in this group, if you're interested, because it's open to the public, is determining what sorts of governance you might have around relations, object properties, annotation properties across the ontologies being used in the federals under BFO and CCS. You think about, like, there are questions that emerge, like, do you use functional properties or role properties of any sort? If you do, how do you use them? Also, never use reflexivity as a property on any of your object properties in your system. Things like this. So if you're interested in getting into any of the technical weeds, or more specifically governance about it, come join us. You'll get to see me rant a lot. You'll get to see other people rant a lot. It's quite an enjoyable time, and nevertheless, we're making progress. In addition, if the U.S. focused projects aren't your real cup of tea, and you have a inclination for more general international waters, we also have exactly as part of the DoD-IC boundary, but a sister group, the FAUG, because I wasn't able to be involved in the naming. The FAUG group and which is sort of a Five Eyes collection of nations working on ontology projects. We get together intermittently and we talk about alignment, collaboration, interoperability. I'm the chair of one of the subgroups that is focused on creating a mapping between basic formal ontology and information ontologies, or exchange standard, which is a commonly used semi-mid-level ontology in the UK defense industry. So we're working very closely with them. I love those guys. Paul, Nigel, they're awesome. We meet. Barry comes in, fights with Chris Partridge a lot. It's lovely.
Only because he's it.
Only I thought you were going to say only because he's wrong. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Although it does meet quite early. And a shout out here. I want to just point. Giacomo, Fede, and Elena are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the TFO side, so I can't take credit for the successes. And there are successes going on in this group. We were tasked with, I mean, honestly, I was told, John, be the chair of this group because people like you and we just want to form strong relationships with them. Let me say, thanks to you and a little bit of charm, we are working that out very successful. So, yeah, but again, this is also open to public. If you're interested in meeting some folks from across various ponds, doing some work about like actual formal work mapping two different architectures that are not obviously compatible together, come hang out. As long as you're willing to get up that early. In addition, within the scope, we get back to the US context within the scope of the dialogue, we have made pretty significant progress in bringing in large-scale ontology projects that have been outside the BFO CCO ecosystem for quite some time. Within the ecosystem, here you see the attack and defend projects from MITRE. They're pretty widely used knowledge graphs, are basically around attacking and defending information or representations within the context of cybersecurity. So Peter and Michael, big fans. Currently working with folks like Giacomo. Sorry, I shouldn't shoot this at your face, but Giacomo, among others, to build a Common Core Ontologies mapping between Defend and CCO. Haven't started working on attack yet, but I don't see why that wouldn't be a problem. In any event, they now have a working group the Defend crew, they have a working group situated under the dialogue, a lot of sponsor support, a lot of interest, and honestly, a really engaged Slack channel and GitHub repository. Also looking for help if you're interested in digging into some of the mapping content you might have between like cybersecurity, domain level ontology, and Common Core. Speaking of Common Core, let's say quite a little bit about that. Some advances. On the left-hand side here, you see some publications that came out with proceedings around Common Core Ontologies, spearheaded by myself, Alex, Mark Jensen, and a few other people, often in the interest of just getting word out about Common Core. I found when I would go to meetings, conferences, people would be building ontologies and they would be building things that CCO already had, and I would point this out and they'd be like, what's a CCO? And so promotion was important here. In addition, put together a website, it's alive. You can find users of Common Core Ontology, just like you can with BFO. So Barry has been curating this very long list of BFO users for many years. There are about almost 100 here now that I found. I just didn't have time to go through, but if you find any, you make a pull request, add some things over here. It's on GitHub pages. It's easy to update. But yeah, the list is growing every day, actually. I think earlier in last year when I checked, I could only easily find about 30 users, but it's already up to 100, and it wasn't hard to find the 100. Now, just don't have time to update it myself. I do it intermittently whenever I get sick because I don't feel like I can do anything else. We are also within the scope of Common Core Ontologies working on the standardization within the auspices of the IEEE around mid-level ontology criteria, analogous to the top-level ontology criteria that you have seen, I'm sure you're aware of in ISO, as well as the standardization of CCO, Common Core, as satisfying those criteria. So We've made significant progress on the mid-level ontology criteria, I should say, a lot of which, at least the philosophical theorizing and whatnot, you can see in this middle architecture criteria paper. But we have since moved on with Alice as a chair to the standardization of CCO proper. Also open to the public. If you want to be engaged in any of this, come join us. You can argue with us about what should go in CCO, what shouldn't go in CCO, among other things. And there are many other things to argue about. Yeah, same. I feel that way. All right. But it's going. These things just take time. It's hard to cut a pie. Related, there's a C3O effort, cybersecurity or cyber ontology effort extension out of CCO within the auspices of IEEE. Brian Haw is leading this currently. Is something of a reference ontology across different cybersecurity efforts. Flaws like ideally there would be something of an extension of say defend and attack from it, as well as the GIST or a GIST related cybersecurity work that's going on. I think it's the acronym is CTIO. I forget what it stands for, but GIST, if you're not familiar, is semantic arts in-house mid-level ontologies. They've been building it for years. They haven't really connected us in industry with BFO until this year when they made a mapping between BFO and GIST and then realized they should actually be making a mapping between CCO and GIST. And so now they're working on that instead. Giacomo has been helping out the semantic arts team among the many other things he does. Not specifically with the mapping to GIST and CCO and BFO, but more specifically with an extension of GIST in the cyber domain. It's like CTI, what is it? Cyber techniques, like cyber techniques, information, something like that.
I think it's just something boring as cyber chase.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So just to say, like a great deal of interest and alignment with BFO and CCO is emerging. I want to say organically, but it's not really like that. If you read this memo, what they're saying is to help support our government sponsors owing to the memorandums, the mapping to BFO. So, and this, you're seeing this more and more and more. So the ISO was a kind of a watershed moment for the use of BFO. Like the numbers, if you just looked at like the user base BFO prior to ISO standardization and after, like orders of magnitude increase in use. That's happening now too with the memorandum. The JESIC stuff's coming out too, just more and more awareness. And I learned yesterday that Amazon actually uses BFO and has been for a while. So that's great. We'll see if they're going to let me talk about that in public, though. This is recorded. Too late. Posting it. So that's pretty exciting. Right now, we'll pop over here to promotion. So as I said, promoting is key. A lot of reuse of a lot of recreations of ontology content. I see it's found just because people don't know what exists. And so made an effort last year, make an effort this year to just promote more and more and more. We were pretty successful at getting a lot of proceedings published. And by we, I mean like a lot of the community here is getting proceedings published at some of the big events like FOIS, JOWO, the JOWO workshops, among many others. I will, it's a feather in the cap. Because I was co-author on a lot of these, my name came up more on the program for FOIS last year than anybody else's by a margin. It's fun. We're going to do it again, though. Try and churn out good work and make sure everybody's aware of the ontologies that we're creating, especially the high quality ones, in particular the high quality ones, so that they don't go build their own structures, which saves it. It's not just about promoting and pointing awareness to, and this is kind of like an opportunity for me to be on a pedestal for a second. We want to make the documentation in these papers accessible to people. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you're writing code or something, you go to a GitHub repo, you see somebody's made some code you might want to use, the documentation's terrible, you try to sort through the business logic, you just go rewrite it yourself. Same thing happens with us, guys. Build an ontology, it's opaque to the user, they find it on GitHub or wherever, maybe you emailed it to them. Get out of that habit, put it up in the open source. They look at it, you don't have good documentation around it. What are they going to do? They're going to build it. And it happens over and over and over again. So it's not just about promoting and pointing, but also like making it clear and accessible. What you're doing, why. I like to use competency questions around this, if anything, as a way to let people see why I built the thing that I'm building.
I didn't understand your thesis now. You mean they take our ontology and then rename it and call it their ontology?
Oh, I wish. I wish. Instead, what happens is they go to repositories and they'll look at the architecture of the file that you've made. They won't understand why you made the decisions you've made. They'll try to think through it for a minute. They'll get fed up and then they'll just rebuild it themselves. They may take what you said.
I see.
Ideally,
So
they'll
they
take
won't rebuild it, they will build
something
something
like
else.
that. That's right. I think
So
it
this
happens
is-
a lot.
This is the reason why we need not just good cops, but also bad cops.
That is true. So I play good cop, as I'm sure you know. Barry is fantastic bad cop. But he's right. You're absolutely right. Sometimes I have to put on the bad cop outfit. It's not really my forte. But if you want to be a bad cop, learn from the master because we also need bad cops.
So the talk I gave at this gene ontology meeting was the high point of bad copness, since I just went through all the silly mistakes they made. And some of them are really funny.
Didn't they at the end ask you to be the chair of
Yeah.
logic?
Yeah, so I
on the condition that you never give another talk. Like
yeah that was the deal I made with Michael Ashburn, that he would put me in charge of the logic of the Go, but I had to promise never to criticize the Go in public.
Oh, I love it. So you're such a bad cop, but you did a job. There's a metaphor there, but I'm not going to unpack it. Go ahead.
Do you have any, like, I guess, general advice about how to lower the barriers so that people don't just throw their hands in the air and figure out?
Sure. I like to use competency questions and front load those so they know what kind of questions I'm thinking about answering.
But where do you?
Put them on the repository. Yeah, put them on the repository. I also mention them in the papers. But really, I also try to write for philosophically trained. Try not to write like that. It's kind of write a little more journalistically is one important thing. I say this as somebody who has a tendency to write technically already, and so it's a chore, but definitely think maybe more in terms of WAPO rather than syntax.
So this might just be reframing, I'm not sure. Do you have standards for documentation or best practices reported in here?
We're working on them. And I'm trying to pull what I can from like just like nearby domain or software engineering, what the best practices around that. Because I know I'm not like inventing best practices around documentation, but we have ideas. But we're kind of creating this now for the community. There's some like sporadic discussions around best practices here and there, but it has not had the attention.
For documentation.
Document.
All right, maybe I'm not allowed to say this here, but I will share my feelings. Who's listening? So I have a background in philosophy. I'm familiar with philosophical foundations of GFO and CCO. I've been using them for 6 years. I've read the documentation and reference theories book often, and I consult peers. And I still sometimes throw my hands up, trying to figure out what it means, what's applicable, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
So sure, challenges will come up, right? It's not a perfect tool, but it's a great tool. That's why I'm here.
Absolutely.
So
Yes. No, this
if
is not.
there's no one
yeah.
else's experience, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it is. No, this is not. It's so.
Because
what
think of
David
the user,
points
you're not
to
gonna
here is
have
like
this level. Yeah.
like somebody who knows the stuff still can get confused or like throw their hands up, and that like imagine people coming in who aren't as familiar.
Exactly.
It's considerably worse. And there, especially if you have tooling or like options out on the table that like aren't maybe as challenging as the sort of like conceptual thinking that we end up doing. Hey, why not use that? Use this other thing that'll just create a silo. But you know what? I gotta move on. I gotta do some. We owe it to ourselves and others. We're gonna make this work. We gotta make it accessible, democratize access to this, both in terms of treatment, which is another topic, but also at least in terms of documentation. I've been doing something. So we have been working on this. So I've had this in mind for a while. I've seen the ebbs and flows of ontology engineering in the past. I've seen the failures. I'm familiar with why we went into winters in the past, I think. And so I've been making like comporting, I should say, my career trajectory in the interest of a lot of maturing in the field in terms of training and dissemination. So a lot of this has to do with like training I'll talk about in a minute, but So we like conferencing because I like to preach to the Gentiles in their own tongue. People like to go to conferences and spaces, so I'm trying to catch them there. They come to a conference and they want to talk about stuff they've been working on. I'm like, gotcha, I'm about to make you feel bad about not maturing your training in the field. And then we try to reteach you. But we did this at STIDS, Semantic Technology for Intelligence, Defense, and Security in 2024. Andrew was there. It was awesome. Gave one of the best talks from what I understand. Fantastic. We also had a workshop on the convergence of large language models and ontologies, and this is part of the FOIS JOWO, the Joint Ontology Workshop Series. And then we had some other events going on, like the Enhanced Object-Based Production Conference that Carter put together helped put together in Tampa, and then a boat workshop, which is a kind of somewhat regular meeting we have with our colleagues over in Toronto who are doing ontology work that happened for a while. Yeah, there's STIDS, and then I actually was going to ask you, Barry, about this one. I don't know what this is.
Oh, that's a podcast of mine.
Oh, okay. So Barry and I have both been doing a lot of podcasts and journaling. Again, promoting. You can find those. We should list all of them in one place. Going forward for 2025, so STIDS will be occurring again. This time it'll be hosted at NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, in combination with this conference called KGOIDS, which is so terrible. It's almost as bad as STIDS, like STIDS and KGOIDS. Sounds like a doctor, right? Well, but any event, it's going to be happening. There will be there'll be an open call for papers in attendance. There'll be like a 2-day open unclassified session and a 2-day classified session. So if you don't have clearance, you can come to 2 of those days, and if you do, you probably only want to come to the first 2 anyway.
Know the date?
I do not specifically, but I want to say it's in October again. But yeah, more on that soon. I did put this in the second annual workshop for convergence of large language models and ontologies as part of the JOWO series. I'm one of the organizers, so I have a good feeling about it. But this will be going on in Catania. If you are interested, we'll have a call for papers out for this, as well as all the other items going out in JOWO. I should mention too that I was elected to the IAOA executive board, and alongside several other like friendly NCOR faces. So we now have just about a majority in the executive board, which is a Machiavellian coup for another time. But I do like to throw that out there. That board is one of the like to kind of oversee these sort of workshops, Force and JOWO. So let's see. I should also mention there's a ground system architecture workshop for David Limbaugh, Mark Jensen, and I. This will be the second year we've attended, but it's a kind of lengthy session, well attended by folks from aerospace, but also government leadership. I can share that last time we did this, this may reveal some of the Machiavellian aspect. We held this session. It was very successful. It spurred the holding of a large in-person meeting across the DoD space. This is the one where I gave that 6 minutes talk. It's a big auditorium. I think it's an aerospace. So that happened because of this, because the aerospace leadership was there and they wanted to see this. And that was used to create a lot of very important relationships across federal agencies. So kind of started there. Culmination was people getting on board with these foundational ontology efforts based on BFO and CCO across federal agencies, and just turning out a lot of good projects and work for us and them. So, this will be happening again, aiming for the same strategy, promotion, make sure everybody understands what we do and field questions from the audience. We've got, again, a lot of leadership there. Hopefully we're leading to more engagement. Speaking of promotion, lots of training opportunities going on, honestly. So Barry and I have been offering, so we taught courses last semester. We've been offering these, working through them, and we've made videos and syllabi, and we'll post all this stuff online. You can find them, at least mine, on the repository. Some of Barry's too, I'm linking to the stuff in there. There's also, and so these are like the top 4 are already available. So if you wanted to say whether you're at UB and enrolled or not, go get the content from here. You could get credit for like Logic for Ontologists, Ontology and Intelligence Analysis by signing up, or you could just go watch the videos and do the work as if you were I don't know, perusing MIT courses online. If you want the credential, basically, you have to enroll, but all the content's there. And I'll talk to you about it, I guess. I mean, also, you can see all the projects that people have done to satisfy the requirements of the courses in the GitHub repository. You can see what they've done, where I've projected to it, where they've revised it, etc. So a lot of good work there, a lot of good resources to train yourself. So Tom Bittner is also offering a geospatial ontologies course. I put LMK here because it was let me know when it was being held, because I'm not sure where and when it's actually going on. Same with Regina, who is offering a seminar. It is Mondays, right? Mondays. So Regina is offering a seminar, and this isn't the title, though, right?
No, that's not.
Yeah. What's the title? I'll change.
I think it's the Ontology of Solitude and Jared.
Ontology of Solitude and Jared Transcendence. Good. So this is part of this is like a real related to a grant I'll talk about a little later. But yeah, Gina's teaching it, she's leading the seminar. I assume you're recording.
I can.
Regina's got to start recording. Hopefully we'll post this on YouTube. That way it can be part of this like growing list of online course material that folks can work through on their own. I am also, because I'm just a masochist for training. No, really, I just want to get the word out as much as possible. Outside of my teaching obligations here at UB, I'm teaching a Monday, two sessions of each of these on Mondays, the design patterns course and the social and knowledge engineering course. So the first one meets from 9, like for design patterns, 9 to 10 a.m. and then 8 to 9 p.m. for the evening session, so hour long each, and then Mondays 10 a.m. to 7, and then 7 to 8 p.m. for the social and knowledge engineering. The design pattern course, these are recorded, by the way, so you can be able to make those. You can watch the videos.
Course credit?
Not yet. I'm essentially doing the work that I will submit as an online course now. The design patterns course will basically walk you through building design patterns and using design patterns in an ontology development work. So design patterns are not ontologies, but they can be used to create them and check your work and then convey your work to other people in an accessible way. So they serve a lot of masters in that respect. This is kind of a deep dive on that. So if you want like best practices around them, and exploration of the field, and then a lot of drilling. I'm a skills-based kind of educator, so you will do work, and you'll have deliverables. Also, and then for the social and knowledge engineering, this is honestly my favorite, because this is essentially me teaching you how to be charismatic and give talks. And so there are a lot of tips and tricks that I can convey to you, but also a skill-based education environment. So come prepared to talk, come prepared to give presentations. I can give you a little taste now. In our first session, halfway through, I stopped and I made everybody in the room say as convincingly as they could that the moon was made of green cheese. It's a hard thing to say, especially if you don't believe it. But you can say it charismatically, and it helped give me a baseline of where they are, and now I can kind of get them where they should be. So, in addition, we're holding a BFO, Common Core office hours. This is under the auspices of the DIOG. So this is for the DIOG community, but it is open to the public. So Alex, Mark Jensen, Alan Rudenberg, and I just get together and field a bunch of questions for people about BFO and CCO. Again, trying to make them accessible. And they are very enjoyable. Let me say, I love the conversations that come out of these, but open. Let me know, because if you ask anybody else, I'm the one with the invite. They'll just send you to me. So let me know if you want to attend. I'll forward you the information. There's also a Common Core Ontologies working group. I think it's Thursdays. Is that right? Thursdays? Yes. Tuesdays. And then Ontology, and Giacomo is running that if you want to know more and get the dates right, ask him. And then there's an Ontology 101 working group. Wednesdays? Yes. Okay. Bill Mandrick is leading that. So email him or Ellen if you want access to that. Colonel Mandrick.
Who works at Cooper?
Who works at Cooper.
Thank you.
Cooper Colonel Mandrick. CCM.
Got
Yeah.
doctor.
Doctor. Oh, he is a doctor. You get Colonel Doctor. Sounds made up, guys. Come on. No, but Bill's great. He's a fantastic teacher. I love him to death. You can learn a lot. They're working through like a knife ontology, I think, like instruction from tip to tail of a knife ontology. They should put a bevel in there, though. I was pleased to see it missing. But anyway, if you're interested in learning from the ground up on build ontologies, this is sort of work they're doing. In the Common Core Ontologies working group, they're you guys are building design patterns around Common Core or building up the work of design patterns that have already been done. And so kind of updating them and again, in the interest of both, in this case, both learning about Common Core Ontologies, but also making it more accessible to others. So landscape. I'll close here with this. So I have some thoughts about going forward. So I don't know if you guys have been watching the news. I have, but you know, I've been watching a lot of news, and I'm sure you know OpenAI when they sent out ChatGPT, kind of took the world by storm. We're still dealing with the consequences. It spurred. I mean, it has spurred like probably the most extensive test of the scalability hypothesis that exists, right? Like you can throw a bunch of data and we'll get AGI with patterns and blah blah blah, reinforcement learning and all that good stuff. Can you do it? Who knows? But it is like the biggest.
I know.
I don't think you can either, but you know, I just want to be fair. Like I don't know. It's a hypothesis.
You're afraid.
I really don't.
You're wrong. I know.
I actually disagree with you on some of the conclusions of book later. But important for this, shortly after dissemination, so NVIDIA rocketed in value, often I think noting to the recognition of the growing need for more compute power so that you can continue throwing data and testing these sorts of things. Then there was this llama leak that made open source modeling for LLMs a little more accessible, and then the subsequent release of a lot of large language models on your local devices in some cases. But it kind of the competition that emerged really spurred a lot of growth in the area. So I'm borrowing this from somebody, but it's looking like more and more that we're inhabiting a landscape in which LLMs are more like commodities rather than assets. These are things they're goods that are interchangeable with goods of the same type, and are used as a foundation for businesses, industry, academia, government, for production, rather than just as an asset, which is like a resource that brings economic value for some specific organization. Kind of like the background of production rather than something that's going to make you unique. And in the land of commodified large language models, this is the important data, training data. And you see a lot of like this kind of like precursor with what we're doing, like, or at least like a recognition of what we do with respect to like organizing data that can be used in these sorts of models, like this proto OKN by NSF, massive effort to create a lot of knowledge graphs, like structured data in different domains and areas. It's also like this decentralized knowledge graph effort trying to promote like organization structure around data. Like we're familiar with this. We've been doing this stuff for years, but like there are a lot of efforts that are going on now and spurring off now. They're trying to do the same things. Of course, if you're familiar with the history there, this is not the first time this has happened. We know about DBpedia. These sorts of things, linked data movements, these things have happened before, Wikidata as well. So, but data is king. Data is going to be king. You can see, especially in the realm of LLMs, that's my suspicion. I'm sure you heard about DeepSeek, and it's potentially, I don't know, I want to kind of hold this with a grain of salt because I'm not really sure how to assess. But, you know, there's some reason to think that it's able to outperform OpenAI's reasoning model at a fraction of the cost. And as I was digging into some of the background architecture, it seems at least one reason why is because they have proprietary knowledge graphs that they've been training their data. They've used this to organize their data and help train their model more efficiently. Now, this is not news to me. We've been talking about this for a year. Like I'm aware. Like this just makes sense. There are papers coming out that came out right after OpenAI released their ChatGPT that's like, hey, if you add a little logic to the data, you don't need as much data and you can get the same model, similar model faster. Like that's not news. This at scale was news. Not to me, but a lot of other people. Not to some other people. I don't know if you've heard of Palantir. Palantir is an organization that talks about they work in kind of reconnaissance. Well, although they're expanding into the healthcare industry, incidentally, Alex, so we should be afraid. But this organization, very big organization, been operating in the background of the federal government for many years, operating now in the background of federal governments outside the U.S. But they use ontologies, they say, It's all throughout their documentation and their patents. They're not exactly the same sort of ontology that we use. If you go to their websites, for example, they tell you if you're looking for structures that interoperate your data across different structures, that's not what we do. We're not interested in interoperability like that. What they are interested in is creating like local solutions to interoperability problems that they can send a lot of Python developers to solve by stitching data sets together with like handcrafted mappings. You can see this both in their patents, and you can also see this in their calls for jobs for ontologies, which are for Python developers with this traditional sort of toolkit. It's a reasonable strategy. It's a reasonable strategy to stitch together databases on demand. It's also a reasonable strategy to have what they call forward deployed Python developer who sits on site, kind of lives with local law enforcement or government agencies and kind of stitches together as things as they need. Makes sense. It's also a great business model if you're trying to corner a market, because there's only one company that I can think of that can do that at scale. So why am I bringing this up? So DeepSeek, the training data, training on proprietary knowledge graphs to Palantir, just over the past week has taken this very seriously, and they've been promoting. They've been saying, told you, ontologies. Ontologies, they also have large language models, and they've been deploying them, and they're saying, we're doing the same thing. We can also outperform open. And the market is responding accordingly. And there's a lot more to say about this. They have like this 18 theses document that they've been circulating now. I don't know if you know this, but there are only like 5 major DoD contractors out there that have direct lines of funding between the organization and the contractors, stuff like Northrop, Boeing, Raytheon. It's the reason why if you work in the contracting space, you often have to sub to somebody else. Used to not be this way. Used to be able to have like direct relationships or formal contracts with the government more easily, but now they kind of have to go through 5. The Palantir is currently trying to be the 6th, and I think they're gonna do it. Why is that important for us? Well, they keep talking about ontologies. Right now, if you have a contract that says you need to use an ontology, you send it to Raytheon. What does Raytheon do? They sub to a group that builds ontologies. Kubrick, same across the board. Boeing does the same thing. That's because none of the 5 build ontologies. There may be a 6th that builds ontology. And they're rapidly expanding into other domains. I mean, what limits them, right? They've been doing reconnaissance, but they're also in the UK national healthcare system. And they're something to keep in mind. My thought here, not to end on too gloomy of a note, but I'm seeing competitive advantage becoming the matter of best training data, and open source ontologies are going to be used more and more as the grounds for training this data. I see the competition is leading to moving fast and breaking stuff across projects. So we see this already in our federal agencies. And my thought is what this does and will do is creating opportunities. I mean, a couple of opportunities. One that I'll highlight here is the expertise as a service, which we see pretty often. We come in and vet, audit, credential different projects, the ontologies, the training data. Of course, that's an open question to us. We have to think a lot more about the research around vetting these ontologies so that they can be useful as training data for these models and others to give competitive advantages. But that, to my mind, is the place we're headed next. Yeah, Andrew.
I want to make a point about this point.
Go.
Which is that the best studies people have been able to do has shown that adding LLMs to products makes those products sell less well. Over indexing into the modern AI trend has traditionally been a good way to lose your shirt.
Yeah.
And I think that it is important, even with everything you said being 100% accurate, to recognize that it is very easy to tie yourself to if you want to tie your AI model to another AI model, when that other AI model eventually goes into a winter, which it will, you're going to get dragged down too.
Right.
So just absolutely, be of service. Well, I think if any of you are out here saying you should do ontologies because it will make LLMs better, you're possibly doing yourself a disservice.
That's right. I think that's absolutely true. Fortunately, what's going on here is more challenging. The thing that we've been doing, I think we've been needed for a while, right? Expertise as a service, this idea that I was concentrating on, didn't emerge out of LLMs, as a matter of fact. It emerged out of watching federal agencies build ontologies quickly and needing to move at the speed of mission. And my thought was, well, you should move as quickly as you can, and then have somebody come in and vet it or credential it or offer like after the fact or even during. And so have some kind of service that way would be ideal. But it also serves this purpose now, I think. I think I'm less. I do think this AI hype, this bubble is going to burst. I think there's going to be useful information or useful tech that comes out of it. And I think one way to make it as useful as I think it can be is by focusing on better training data. So I do think there's an avenue, but it can be motivated by different masters.
I don't want to get into a back and forth about this right now.
Let's do whatever it is, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that I worry about this idea of coming in afterward, after the thing has been built and trying to vet. This is traditional, like this is something that software engineers have been trying to do for a very long time. And it tends to lead to patches on patches on patches of broken things and massive piles of tech debt.
Yeah.
And I'm no ontology expert, but I have listened to you long enough to know that tech debt is a major problem in ontology spaces as well.
Yeah.
Getting things right from the get-go is also important.
Oh, I agree.
And I would like to challenge the people in this room to think about how to do that better for ontology development.
Yeah.
As well as how to better go in and fix some things that were done in the past.
We definitely have to do that too. I have to say though, just as skeptical as you are about the failures or the challenges of being able to do that, come in and fix it after the fact, they're just as big as challenges of doing it right. Like there's a middle ground for sure. And one of the reasons we train as hard as to do to kind of mature the field we do and like send out people in different agencies who can do the work that we do so that they can do it right well enough, at least scope the problems right or build the architectures right so we don't have as much tech debt. We're going to have to deal with it anyway. And part of that is just at the end of the day, this guy's got to send the man to something. You don't have all the time in the world to make it perfect. You guys got to send content out to various groups and they have to move it. And it's going into systems that lives depend on. And it has moved now because of the way contracts work and whatnot. And like that, just expediency of mission. So it is a back and forth.
You have to do something.
Yeah,
we got to do something practical. But practical does not mean give up on.
Sure, certainly not. I mean, forgive me if I hadn't highlighted this enough, but like the background of the training is doing it well quickly. Like that is absolutely like you come to class and we do it well quickly. That's real in your head how to do it well quickly. There aren't a lot of us though. We're growing in numbers, so I'm hoping we can like as a matter of numbers address some of this issue, but it's a challenge. It's a couple of challenges, and they're traditional challenges. They're not unique to us. This is pointing out. We've been dealing with people. Been dealing with them forever. Well, not barriers.
Just that there are a few people who came in late. You should ask them to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'm Hannah. I currently don't go here, but I'll be here doing the YouTube program this fall.
Well, you're in the walk.
The PhD.
Oh yeah. Where are you going to?
I'm taking a gap year. I graduated in computer science in May.
From uni?
Yeah.
So you're taking a PhD in computer science
In philosophy.
and philosophy.
Is that part of that incoming plan? Yes. Then who are you?
Oh, I'm Greg. Sorry, I'm a little sick. I'm Greg DeFranco. I'm undergraduate philosophy student here. Taking classes with John and Gina.
One of the NCOR interns.
Yes. And glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Any more?
Who's Jisoo?
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Jisoo. I'm a PhD student in philosophy. What? Oh, yeah. So I'm the NEIO project group, which is, what's on real-time interface ontology. And, yeah, some other, just. Working.
Who are you, Keith?
Oh, it's my turn. Sorry, I just got here. I've been quite because the weather outside is difficult. Hi everybody. I know most of you, or I know your faces. My name is Olivia Hovai. I'm in the second semester of my junior year, pursuing a degree in philosophy. I came here from out of state because I wanted to study the basic formal ontology. And right now, most notably, I recently accepted an internship with MITRE, and I serve as the lead editor on the Common Core Ontology.
You guys have any questions about anything TCO related?
Yeah, I can go. My name is Steve Allen. I'm a first year PhD student here at Buffalo in the computer science department. Actually, Andrew's my advisor. So I work with programming languages. I'm not working on a ontology related project here right now, but doing other interesting stuff with programming, which hopefully you make more ontology there at some point.
You used to
I
work
used
with Roman at AFRL on the Debo.
Yes.
You also are starting
Yeah.
an
Yes,
internship
I'm
with somebody soon.
Yeah.
Really?
I'll be working with ontology stuff with Kubrick, right?
Yes, thank you,
You
thank
did
you.
say he was like, I'm not doing it now.
Yeah. No, he
This
will be
gap
in like
in my
a
life.
week.
Sorry, Mike.
This is all I had. I mean, I've got some stuff about grants.
This guy over here in the nice
Yeah.
sweater.
Yeah, who else?
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
I guess, yeah, I
For
guess
some
I
reason I
just-
thought you introduced yourself.
No, I just made myself annoying. That's all I did.
No, you did not. What?
I'm Andrew. I'm a professor of computer science here at UV, where I work in logic and programming languages. And I have been trying to get some stuff started with John on making ontologies better with technology and making technology better with ontologies. Everything in between.
Got some awesome things coming out. Pretty great. Yeah.
So I did want to say, in relation to the conversation we had with Andrew a moment ago, I think it's important to make the wrong mistake. There are the right type of mistakes when you're getting all of this stuff, right?
Yeah,
There's the
yeah.
wrong mistakes that will hose your project and get you all the tech debt and everything else, right? There's going to be some things, but there's the kind of mistakes where you can fill in the gaps, right?
Yeah.
So being able to identify where it's okay to say, well, we're not quite right here yet. Move on, and we can fix that later, because that's not the kind of problem that's going to kill the project or prevent forward movement or prevent
I
interrupt.
completely agree. And there's no such thing as being completely correct all the time. Like,
Oh, no.
nobody thinks
Sorry,
there
our
is.
work is perfect all the time, and nobody, seven is working on CCO to fix it right now.
Right. But I mean, I teach software engineering strategies. I think a lot about how to get things right the first time, so that you can focus on all the things you got wrong anyway.
Great. All right, so yeah, please.
I mean, you're-
Q&A, go for it.
you're-
I've got more slides with it for later.
Can you teach a class about how to mess up the right way?
Yeah, this is design pattern course.
Nice.
A little bit of it's ours.
I have to say, there's a someone saying that in the language design world, that design pattern is a flaw in language design.
Design pattern is a
Flaw in language design. If you have a design pattern, it's because your language isn't supporting you well enough and actually saying what you want to say.
I think you're right, but like this is also one of those North Oak situations where we're trying to like change the planks while on the.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a reason language design patterns still happen no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just trying to do it well enough.
You learn from them. And then
Absolutely, yeah. And you can also, I mean, one other purpose they serve is, and often if you've done it well, you can drop a design pattern in a slide deck through some leadership members who don't care anything about ontologies, who don't want to see the O words. They love pictures. You give them a good picture, I was like, that makes sense. It's just a really compelling diagram, and they're like, I'm sold.
That was what brought me here. I went to Google Images and I saw those great charts and diagrams.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
All right, so I'll keep bugging you. I wanted to go back a couple slides and ask a question. Those are my 2 cents in real quick here. So in my environment, there is an unspoken competition that LLM is in competition with the use of ontology. And your answers to that concern is no, you're not competition. Ontology makes it a lot better. Because that sounds better to the people with purse strings than, well, LLM was going to die. You don't worry, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, just give it time.
Yeah. No. My point is not to not do what John's saying. I think John is absolutely right in how he frames it. My point is to not run with it too hard.
Me too.
Okay.
I
I bring this up because it is a thing that we deal with a lot in CS. Is these LLMs are doing lots of great things for us, but if we tire ourselves to it too hard, right? And how do you balance that? And we talk about that a lot. And I felt like there needed to be a little bit more recognition of the other side of that debate.
Well, I appreciate it, because I wasn't hitting that line very much at all.
So
I'm
the-
showing you pictures of stock person town too.
Going back a couple slides, the concern was over the integration and the mapping between 2 things. One, something like this just programmed. That is where something's been built under VFO, as many ontologies, which does not mean they're compatible with CCO, right? No, they're not mapped to CCO at all. There's that mapping. And then there's the mapping where you have the MITRE project, ProFlow project.
Yep.
And another attempt to bring some well-developed ontologies, well, some of our ontologies, better vocabularies into the BFO and then ultimately into the CCO.
Yeah.
It's, you said that's, and what's great about it is we're in communication, we're working on things. So what I wanted to know was, is there happen to be successes in this effort?
Yeah.
You could share.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up. So I did have some slides about this, but I threw them out because I thought we should be talking too long, but this is probably the more exciting thing that's going on right now. So Giacomo, Tim Prodom, and Alex Scully and a few other really engaged, motivated ontologists who were learning about 2 years ago. When I got here, I tasked them with this mapping challenge. Like, it was like, we have to figure out a way to not just like create papers of talking about mapping ontologies together, but actually provide like a formal foundation on which you can write code that automates mapping. And so they did. They spent 2 years working on this provenance ontology paper, and that itself has some code built up from it, but really the underlying architecture is like a formal foundation on which you would write such things and then be able to explain the code that you've written. And so this has been implemented to some extent right now by our friend Jeremy in France with NASAI, who's building platforms with BFO and CCO, and he's taking the lessons learned from Giacomo and Tim, etc., from this paper, as well as I should say the work of Michael Gruninger and his like formalization in Calore, which is kind of foundation for this, to create a platform that does this sort of mapping in a semi-automated way. I see this being really crucial going forward because I see the landscape. I'm just putting my ontology goggles on, of having like an ecosystem of structures that I can kind of automate the flipping between. Part of this is because I know challenging problems like solutions to challenging problems can be revealed sometimes by being able to look at the problem from different perspectives, like different ontological lenses. That is a challenging thing to do manually. That seems to be something we can automate portions of. And so, like when I see other ontologists or ontologies in the BFO ecosystem, like representing even similar domains and they're not back together, I want to be able to flip between them. Even when I see things outside the BFO ecosystem, I want to be able to flip between them, all in the interest of like serving a research agenda. To put a bow on that, I'm sure you've heard me say this before, I want to live forever. I don't want to die. And I have no idea how to research this, but I bet if we had enough of this flipping and enough discoordinated interoperable data, some genius would figure out a path of research forward and I might not have to die. So nonsense. So far, people used to say it was nonsense that we'd have cures for cancers, but
No, through AI.
Partly because of your. So I was inspired by this like mortality question because Barry used to say things like, we probably have answers to our question or like answers or research agendas in the data, embedded in the data for solving like problems around cancer or addressing cancer. If we could just make it explicit and use computers to help us.
The highest level of AI work in AI at the moment in the cancer field, which is really high level and has nothing to do with like large language models, has managed to extend the life expectancy of chemotherapy patients with one specific kind of cancer by 1 year. That's
Did they thank you?
Well,
anyway.
Sorry, I have an actual question. Which is you talk about being able to flip back and forth, between different ontologies using these mappings. My question is, at a formal level, what does it mean to have a mapping that allows you to flip back and forth? I can imagine things that are extremely strong, but they might be too strong. And I don't know what you actually need there. Do you?
Oh, yeah. So when I talk about like the formal mappings, regardless of the strength, like you can take like a strong theory over here, strong this theory over here, and you can identify like using translation definitions, like identify within the space. Sure,
that all makes sense.
My question is down and then spot.
My question is, does it need to be an isomorphism, an embedding?
I mean, I
something like a lens.
I do believe that would be great, but how can we did all that? Like that's the best case. I would like that. Sometimes we have to make do with something weaker. That's also value, right? Like research value. Right?
I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't do these things. I'm just trying to figure out what you're looking
no, I know. Like I feel like we're talking about a grant right now. Like,
well, that's why I'm thinking about
it. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then we can hook up with Jeremy and talk about automating this and like putting it into a platform that helps like users, like helps democratize access to your users so they can like see the different displays and then do the creative thinking that we humans do. Later I'll talk about a grant where we're trying to do some of this that we got from the NIH. Like part of the grant ultimately is going to be creating like using a platform of this sort with LLMs and ontologies in the background to help identify research opportunities in the intersection of geriatrics and its ontology. So, but with that, I'll stop because I'm way over. What's next on the agenda? Which one?